Good day. Got a joint lit for another session of From Under the Influence. I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to the show. Happy to be here. Happy that you're joining me too. We're here in Vancouver. It must be Wednesday. High atop Cannabis Culture Headquarters. And which is open for business. Third floor. Stores open. Online's open. Joined today by Anil, who is flipping switches so fast. You can't believe. Somebody should videotape this guy flipping these switches. He must be, I don't know how many times he's clicked that mouse. Thousands of times. But yeah, here we are again in the proceedings. It's been a long time. Somebody asked me earlier today how many shows I've done. I don't really know, but potentially 1,000, I would have to think.
That's pretty reasonable.
We did start a long time ago, and I have done a lot of shows. Yeah, from the earliest of days, it was certainly an avenue to exploit, I suppose. To get the word out anyway. Is always what I tried to do. And show all cannabis-related ongoings. I don't know. I'd have to say that I was the first guy to introduce all of the seed breeders from Amsterdam to you. I don't think that they were in any other videos prior to me going there and interviewing them. I don't think, because that was early on in the proceedings. And virtually no one else was doing what we were doing at Pot TV. I got my Pot TV t-shirt from the era, actually, from those days. Never really thought about it, and it was just there in the drawer. It came up in the pile. Well, there's some chattery going on. Two Joints is joining us. CBC voter, as always. Appreciate you guys always tuning in and joining in. Have no idea what I'm smoking today. It has just become a bunch of different kinds of weed. Yeah, I've been spending time working at the stock market, 420 stock market, where my old shop used to be. Now taken over by Vicky and running a pretty nice thing down there. So if you're in Vancouver and you need weed, come on down. Yeah, she's coming at it from the idea that this location is located on unceded territory, and she is indigenous, and it's run from that point of view. So, interesting. I think it's a very good way to go, and it's true. If Vancouver's going to say that this is all unceded territory, then people got to start being able to make up their own rules around it. We don't need colonistic rules being forced on anyone. Which has gone on for fucking ever for these poor people. My God, what has been wrought upon the indigenous population here in Canada, and not always that long ago, unfortunately. I can't imagine why it's not a top priority of anyone to provide as much as they can for the people who have shared their land with us. Without it, we got nothing. Quite frankly. The Indian Trust Fund, I think it's called, where they get to use all the money and give none of it to the indigenous people. And haven't changed the name of it.
It keeps on giving, not taking.
So yeah, there should be drinkable water everywhere for all people, and it should be a top priority to provide it. Not, what the fuck? Not ignore it. Oh my God. If there was anywhere else in Canada, any block, any street in the fucking world here that had no water, the cry would go out and things would be changed and fixed instantly. But not when it comes to somebody on the res. For fuck's sakes. And it just goes on across Canada. The fishermen out to east and their lobsters. Holy fuck. When you see the amount of lobsters that the fucking non-indigenous lobster hunters take compared to what the indigenous people are taking, oh my fucking God. It is massive compared to the amount that they're taking. No, I don't know. It's crazy. And that anyone would have the fucking gall to protest against indigenous rights and livelihoods, and to protest against it. Fucking pipelines. They all got to go through res land, Indian land, indigenous land for some reason.
Always for some strange reason. They always have these other plans and people say no, so then they come up with these other fucking plans, and it's always a yes, they say.
Yeah. No, it's a tragic state of affairs and needs to change. But what the fuck? Well, we were saddened certainly by the news of Jason Wilcox passing away. That happened before I didn't do a show last week. But just wanted to give out my condolences to his family and know that he'll be missed in the cannabis community. He was very active and did very many things totally dedicated to the cause, and certainly was very instrumental in the Allard case, I think it was. So, yeah, good on you, Jason, and you'll be missed. What else happened? Oh, an election. We had a provincial election that happened. And the NDP got a majority.
I forgot to check the turnout.
Oh, the turnout was dismal. 35% or some fucking thing. People just don't vote. But if you didn't like the NDP before, they got a majority now. So we're fucked. Everything they're going to be doing with great confidence and no contest. Right? It's no different. I hate politics and politicians. We don't need them anymore. They're getting in the way of us having good lives. And that shouldn't happen. There should be no reason for it. The NDP, they run on some platform, but they do all sorts of other things while they're in power. And this is kind of, you go, well, wait a second, I didn't know that was coming. So you might ask me, the citizen, what I think about it, rather than you go ahead and make whatever fucking deal you want to. Not necessarily in my best interest. So I don't see any change in their attitude other than it's going to be more stringent. And of course, cannabis will be a big focus. As it is in the world, everybody's looking at cannabis. No, I don't know. Cannabis is the most unusual little plant ever, really. I can think of no other like it. There's no plant on the planet that's treated the way that this plant is treated. And turned into something that it's not. So what, 2 years we've been with legalization with it? I don't know, it's been thrust upon us. And it feels like 10. Quite frankly, 10 dreary fucking years of legalization. It's only been 2. Now, still a lot of wrangling going on. It's a total focus, and it's fucked all the way around. The whole shebang continues to not regard cannabis. Ooh. They don't even look at it, all right, to see for what it is. It's all just conjecture of what it could be, what it might be, what this is, what that is, right? And you go, holy fuck, it's like, and I appreciate it because we've been doing this a long time and we've been fairly focused on cannabis, so we know quite a bit about it. And to watch the circus of information being spewed out like we're all fucking newbies. They just discovered it. So I get that part, really. They just discovered it, but holy fuck, there's not much in it for me. Well, duh. Yeah, we got an endocannabinoid system. Well, duh. Yeah, there's fucking CBD, CBG, CBN. Terpenes, terpenes, they just discovered terpenes. Now they've fucking mandated that they be listed on the side of the fucking package. I don't think cannabis is specific enough to warrant such. Really. Like, it's just not. They'll go so far as to put what terpenes are this is being tested for, and yet they'll put a bud inside of a big giant jar and let that bounce around for a couple months while it's waiting to be sold to you. What about those trichomes that had all the good stuff in it that you fucking knocked off of it? Yeah, the leaf maybe didn't get crushed, probably did, but still. So, when I say there's not much in it for me, there's not much in it for people who actually care about cannabis. Right? People who have cared about it and enjoyed it for a very long time maybe are not as many as, certainly not that many people are as into it as we are, but connoisseurs, if you will, or aficionados, or whatever you want to call them, do exist. So to pretend now under legalization that they didn't exist before, and that people do know something about it, and to maybe play to those people. These would be more of the people who are refusing to shop at your fucking stores. When you're pandering to newbies, and the whole system is limited to pandering to newbies, really. You can't say too much about the cannabis at point of purchase. No. We received a letter from Health Canada having to do with our 420 broadcast this year, and calling into question the potential of contravening a million of their fucking rules, and set out to show us those million rules about how limited you can be about promoting cannabis in any fucking way. So, they were also concerned, I suppose, that minors could watch it. And all it really was adults enjoying cannabis, talking about cannabis. Nobody was selling cannabis or fucking...
As they had annually for 26 years.
Yeah, which we
26.
we did at the park. Threw marijuana out to the crowd, for God's sakes, let alone promoted it. But this contravenes the idea. See, they're just trying to shut down the culture. And that sucks, really. Like, that shouldn't happen. There's no reason to do that. The fuck? Why would you? Because they won't admit to having created what went on before legalization. They want that to be erased and not to be an issue or an admission. That's what they've done. So they refuse to look beyond the first day of legalization. But 2 years into it, I don't know. They're struggling to, in many ways, the weed's probably getting better, you would think. Couldn't get worse. As long as you're not buying it from these big fucking factories. And I suppose micro-cultivators will improve that. Smaller growers will improve that, although access to it will be interesting and from a small grower. But I don't know. I went on the BC Cannabis store webpage yesterday and looked at stuff. And the weed that they showed looked pretty good. Looked all right. But it was fucking expensive. Oh my gosh. They had Congo. The Roberts Creek Congo, which is Congo cross with something. I'm pretty sure. Not necessarily pure Congo, but they wanted fucking, I don't know, $12 a gram? More than that, maybe? 17 maybe? Was it? I can't remember now, but it was fucking really expensive. And you go, what the fuck? See, that's the problem too. If you don't look back that there was a prohibition to affect the price structure of cannabis, which was put in place by the black market, why on earth do you want to replicate that? Because it's a really fucking high price. Why should the cannabis consumer see, if you pretend that there was no cannabis consumed prior to legalization, then you can easily dismiss the idea that we should be paying a whole lot less. That sucks. So I don't know. I don't like this idea of canceling our culture, which is a vibrant culture. It wasn't small. It wasn't just a fucking handful of people. It was across this country, for God's sakes, through all walks of life. Only because we like cannabis. So, an interesting way to start an industry by going, wow, we don't give a fuck about you. We think that more people are just going to buy our weed because they can buy weed now. I guess. Which is probably the case. So it's constant to, oh, our weed's okay, but it's still really fucking expensive for no apparent reason here. This ain't just like, who the fuck does that with any product? Drives the price. Well, no one's ever had a chance. Never had a chance to have fucking prohibition turned around. Alcohol prohibition. But that only went on for a few years, for fuck's sakes, till their addiction to alcohol took over. And they put it back. So, cannabis has been around for a very long time and desired by many. So many so that you thought it was a good idea to legalize it. There were so many people consuming cannabis that you thought it would be the right, I don't know, most opportune thing to do. But yet, choose to cancel those people who consume cannabis prior to you legalizing it. What in the actual fuck is that? Nobody does that to anything. So there's a fair bit of change needs to take place, as far as I can tell. But I don't quite know how to get around it all. The black market should and will continue to thrive. All over Canada this year, not all over Canada, mostly in Ontario, the cops there busted a lot of outdoor grows. Huge, giant fucking outdoor grows. Thousands of plants. So they're all pumped up about that. How, but the underlying message that the cops have taken up is that these are medicinal licenses being abused. That they have a license to grow X number of plants, but they're growing more than they should by the fucking thousands. So they busted a few of these, and now they're all in the news about how much the street value of the marijuana off the, not telling us that it's, considering that it's outdoor weed and what it's actually worth. But they inflated that to hundreds of millions of dollars, for fuck's sakes. But they're not looking for indoor grows, I guess, while they're doing that. And it's just outdoor weed. Nobody really cares anyway. So, yeah, until the legal market, I don't know, it's good. It's just too tight. Even though they're going to open more and more stores and there's going to be more and more growers, it's all done at the fucking high price of cannabis. And they're tracking it as quickly and as often as they can to compare their legalization to the price in the black market. They're going, oh, we're at $7.14, they're at $7.95, and you go, fuck you, you shouldn't be at $7.14. This is not a target to just undercut the black market's price. The target should be to provide me, the consumer, and all the people who wanted to consume cannabis before legalization, the opportunity to have a product at a fair fucking price here. And not to adopt the idea that this is a fair price for the substance. Simple as that. There's no justification for the price. There's no justification for the tax. It's just there. It's just that way. You go, fuck you. Black market wasn't even like that. Or the legacy market, they want to call it now. What legacy are you talking about? What's the legacy of that? Other than it being fucking hunted down by the cops. So the underlying story here is about the abuse of the Health Canada ticket and calling upon Trudeau and federal government to fucking say, what are you going to do about this flagrant misuse of your... And you fucking watch. Shoppers Drug Mart is back in the news. I don't know why they keep coming into the news about them selling cannabis, because they haven't yet, and they're going to still, but they got blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that they said in that article was that medical marijuana should come through a pharmacy because they're qualified to do such things. It should be treated as a medicine, the guy said, and treated accordingly. So you watch, they're going to fucking start backlashing against these designated growers and the numbers of plants people are given to grow for themselves. I think they're going to try and roll that back. If not, end the program completely. Say, look, if you want medicinal cannabis, you go to Shoppers Drug Mart. Just like me, what they say, if you want adult use, as they call it, adult use cannabis, if you want that, then you got to go to our stores. What? I'm one of the reasons that the store exists. I'm one of the people who wanted cannabis prior to legalization. So what? You go, okay, well, we've set the price at this. Quality is coming along. So it's interesting where we might be headed with all this shit. Now, the world though, like, see, they're licking their lips over the prohibition price of cannabis, which doesn't serve me as the consumer at all. Nothing in it for me. It's because they won't look at cannabis. They only look at fucking, I don't know, they look at prohibition without knowing that it's there. This is what cannabis... So, they only regard our culture in terms of horticulture. I just made that up. But they have just taken the cannabis that we created in that time that doesn't exist and have run with it. Go, okay, well, we'll take that now. Even though they never looked at cannabis, didn't care about finding out anything about cannabis or the price it actually cost to produce it by the fucking million acre. But they wanted all that. They wanted the same kind of lights. They wanted the same kind of food. Same. Hey? And here's an interesting thing, I think, in terms of an industry. I guarantee you every single grower does it differently. Every company, every grower, every micro producer, every fucking buddy. because they've all done it that way. Different than the other guy. For whatever reason. Lots of reasons. But I've never ever in my life met two growers that do it the same. Unless you're outdoor on the same fucking hillside or something like that. But indoor, nobody. And that was because of Prohibition. Prohibition forced people to be quiet, not fucking disclose that they were growing cannabis, so they couldn't talk to anybody. There was hardly any books. You could barely get a book. You didn't want to even fucking order one. Didn't want to get it in the mail. So you didn't do nothing. You did it by the seat of your pants. And, I don't know, cannabis is fairly forgiving. It's a nice plant. It's been very good to us. We've been horrid to it, but it still produced cannabis. We wanted cannabis so much that we didn't really care. We would take anything we could get. So, people just began to do it differently in every corner of the cultivation. So whoever's fucking growing weed right now in Canada legally, doing it different than the other guy. And to varying degrees of success as a result of those decisions, I suppose. Can't imagine they've taken the luxury of figuring out what their plants would actually like. Or in any way to provide me with a better quality of cannabis. A consistently better quality of cannabis. But instead, it's going to get manhandled the whole fucking way through. Trimmed by a machine. Each and every single movement is knocking trichomes off the plant. No, I'd prefer that not to be happening to my cannabis, thank you. But they're not going to address that because they don't care about those of us who smoke cannabis before legalization. That's not important. Only what we did is important because that's what they're all doing out there now. So it's interesting, little dichotomy, I'd have to say. See, we're too used to paying Prohibition prices. It's gone on for so long. How about some acknowledgement about that? Really? For so fucking long that people have been born into it and lived their whole lives under this. If they wanted cannabis at a certain age, it was this price because it was illegal. And that's what you paid. That doesn't mean that we necessarily have to be content with paying that. Do we? When it doesn't cost that much to produce? Let's see some research on that instead of the price of cannabis compared to the black market. It's all fucking too expensive. I'd prefer it much cheaper and deserve it much cheaper. Like anything else. Premium cannabis, haven't seen it yet. It should all be premium, shouldn't it? What would make it less than fucking premium at the cheapest price? Like, you go, what the fuck? Why are you even offering cannabis that's shitty? Or isn't premium, as you're calling it? It's not premium weed, it's premium price. Premium weed. See, they're just pretending. They took that from Prohibition too. The grading of marijuana. because what was available in the black market came in all sorts of different fucking. It all sold eventually, but the grading system had to be employed. They couldn't think of anything better than A other than double A, triple A, and quads, 4As. 4As. It's A's the limit. What are we going to do after A? Should have started at E. But they adopted that practice already. And the most expensive weed in the black market is the same price as the crappiest weed in the legal market. This is the comparison that they make. So, and then they've only got one or two of those. But I don't know. It's difficult to rend people away from the desire to make a lot of money, or money in general, right? They've been given the opportunity here to set the price at these ranges rather than encouraging, because they're making so much money off it. And it's mostly the fucking alcohol division of the government that's making all the fucking dough. I don't know. I guess. Who's making all the fucking money here? Or you're just all dividing it up, I guess. I don't know what retailers buy their weed for. I don't know the wholesale price of.
Like stores, seems like a lot of places are opening stores, so there's still interest. But I don't know who's producing it.
None of the stores have to order from the liquor board.
Yeah, like the same supply, like the same stock.
Run by people who work at the liquor board, not people who work in cannabis. They couldn't find any. There are very few that would work for them. I don't know if that's true necessarily.
Hopefully
But so it's not even designed with me, the cannabis consumer, in mind. Oddly enough. What an unusual fucking conundrum that we have with cannabis. Just because of this stupid little plant that they made illegal, and now want to continue to take advantage of those of us who were smoking weed the day before legalization. But I would have to say that we represent the black market. Mostly. It's not newbies coming to the black market. Maybe it is. I don't know. But people have always gone to it. People buy weed anywhere because it's the thing that they want that doesn't hurt them. Doesn't hurt anybody else, so they kind of would like to have it. It's very popular. So they'll buy it anywhere, anytime. I know I would. Yes, I'll buy that. So, it's kind of odd to me from my point of view. Now, from a newbie's point of view, I suppose it's wonderful. Ooh, I can go into a store and buy wildly overpriced cannabis. Oh, is that the price of cannabis? Yes, I'll pay that. And then it becomes the price of fucking cannabis. And they go, oh, the more expensive it is, the better it must be. Well, what's in it for me? How come I don't get the best fucking weed at the cheapest price? And even cheaper? How about that? Why isn't the cheapest weed just fucking killer? As good as it gets. Why would you grow anything else? Why, have you grown anything else? There's many people grow much better weed than that. Always, every time. Why didn't you go ask them? Who did you ask? Some guy who was doing it is probably the problem. Anybody who knew anything more than they did, because they knew nothing. Oh yeah, I'm growing weed. Oh yeah, I can grow lots of weed. Oh yeah, that's all. And off you go. But lots of problems down the line, and with no testing whatsoever. It's just fucking do or die situation, same kind of thing.
Except nobody dies.
Yeah.
Do or die, nobody dies.
Used to be the cops were coming, so you did a bunch of shit that you normally wouldn't do because the cops were coming. They still do all that. But it's the calculator that's coming now, obviously. No matter what your square footage or square meterage would ever be, by the billions or not so much, you're still concerned about getting the most weed out of that as you possibly can. It's not designed for the myriad of choices that we should be looking at, right? So, not a full-term sativa in sight, really. And no one even fucking knows. They're trying to eke out as much as they can out of their square meterage in the quickest amount of time, just like always. Because that's what cannabis horticulture has become. So that came straight out of Prohibition. What happened to the pure hazes? What happened to all the good fucking sativas that exist out there in the world that you aren't providing for us? You don't want to do that? You want to pretend that we don't care? We don't know? That we shouldn't have it because it doesn't fit your fucking greenhouse? So, much to do. Much going on with cannabis still. Oddly enough, that it would continue all this fucking time. Now, lots of people have gotten involved in the industry, and people do whatever they want. But for me, I don't know, there's just so much that needs to be fixed here. This isn't even a fucking try. But they, I don't know how that all works. Don't really care. People do what they do. But not too much has changed from the point of view of a cannabis consumer from before legalization. I don't even know how retail would work. How you even fucking know what you're selling. I don't think you get to open any to fucking look at. You probably have to buy it from them. You gotta pay for it yourself to have a look. I guess. I don't know. Then when do you go outside and smoke weed? You go out the back door of your cannabis store and smoke? Not. So I don't know. The culture has been eradicated inside the stores as well. So it's all part of the program of restrict. What was the other fucking word? Restrict and fucking what? the health minister, for fuck's sakes, is telling us not to consume it. Best choice of action when it comes to cannabis, she said, was abstinence. To all the people, enough people to have legalized it. Evidently, did they legalize it for the potential of those who might consume cannabis, or for those of us who already did? Maybe. Somewhere. Not. So, it leaves me as a consumer in an unusual position, I think. You didn't get fuck all out of the deal. Really. When it came down to it, what was in it for me? What is in it for me to go there and fucking spend my money on their weed? Gotta give taxes? Fuck that. Cannabis doesn't deserve a tax. I don't know. It's kind of the same shit week after week. I apologize for that. It hasn't changed much.
Well, you can carry it, kind of. Some places it's a bit easier. But
Not my
places
fault.
it's a lot worse.
These stories exist. I'm not making those up, so it's not my fault that they exist. So, I don't know. We have to fight against these stupid regulations somehow. Few will do that. They'll only want relaxed regulations where it suits their business. But nobody be looking to fucking wickedly drop the price here. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll just flounder until there's nothing left. Nobody, just the newbies buying weed there. So, you can have that. Fair enough.
People want
The
it.
legacy market never needed that before. We were doing pretty good. Just the way it was the day before legalization. So why don't you have that? Go ahead, legalize cannabis. Call it Cannabis 2.0, because leave us alone. Just leave us alone. You go ahead. You look how much you've already fucking made. How much do you want? So, have your legalization, and newbies can shop at your stores, or people convenient on the highway in a strange town need a reefer. Right? That kind of thing. And that'd be good. You could share it. No. Don't want to do that, though, do you? So, black. But everybody's still coming at it from a medicinal point of view, or some other point of view that, again, not considering what cannabis is. I saw an article about, for your newbie market, how to protect your cannabis, best way to store your cannabis. Well, it was somewhat ill-informed, I'd have to say, and no different than what we've been doing all these years to a large degree. Oh, you can't use a plastic bag, it said. You must use a glass jar. That protects the terpenes, it said. Now, I don't know about that. They don't even know where the terpenes are, to start with. Now, I looked at the plastic bag Now, I've had weed around in this bag for a while, and there's getting to be a bit of fucking resin on the bag, on the inside of the bag. And I looked at my jar at home, and the same thing existed. Inside of the jar is covered with fucking resin. So I'm not too sure that my weed is being handled in any different way whatsoever, that the plastic somehow is sucking fucking resin off my weed, or it's sticking to it. Depends how quickly you use this bag too. If you're using a fairly fresh bag all the time, ain't happening at all. And then it'll depend on how long you're going to store your weed. But they suggested that you store your weed in glass to protect the loss of terpenes. Now, I'm not too sure how that all works, really. Like as your weed sits in there, it's the resin head, trichome head that's, well, it's no longer being filled with stuff, right? And that stuff that can get out of there is, and that would be the phenols or alcohol is fuming off, and I'm pretty sure that's where the terpenes are. Like it also carries the smell and, right? Creates the aroma of cannabis in this passage of alcohol out into the fucking jar. So, as soon as you open that jar, gone. Those are gone. Whatever leaked out of your cannabis while you weren't there is gone. And it will continue to do that. Even as you pick the next bud out of the jar, it's doing that while you're fucking carrying it over to your grinder. Microscopically, perhaps, or tiny, tiny amounts, but that doesn't change. Cannabis has stopped doing what it's doing and is now doing this. So, there's no way of stopping that or capturing it. Really, you can't. There's nothing, plastic bag, jar, fucking doesn't matter what you have it in. It's not capturing it. I like jars, but I don't know. My jars just sit there in the sunlight anyway, which is one of the worst things if you want to. And they never really, in this article, ever talked about storing it for a long time, what you would maybe want to do, but we all kind of knew that already. But yeah, terpenes, they're going nuts about terpenes now.
How much is a long time?
10 years?
Because like if you have one bud out, one in a jar, and one out next to it, the one next to it will age faster, won't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, age, it'll just dry out quicker. That's what
Yeah,
it'll
so
do.
you're saving some of the.
But even weed that I've smoked that was in a jar for 10 years, it still tasted like hay. But, and, you know, it got you stoned, but the trichomes had degraded something fierce. And that's really all we care about is what's going on with the trichome. It's a cool plant. And we've made up a lot about it. A lot of lore. Because we didn't really have any answers to our questions. Because it was illegal. Sure, we cared about it, but wow, the care of which people are suggesting that we have with cannabis and its utilization, how it has to be so exact and it's got to have this much THC, it must have this fucking terpene percentage. rather than the ability to look at the weed and make a reasonable adult decision about whether or not you wanted to buy it, rather than a list of numbers on the outside of a fucking package. Now, Anil was telling me about Molson's introducing some sort of non-alcoholic beer infused with cannabis, which nobody really asked them to do. But the bottle covered with warnings, THC warnings, not beer warnings. Not that it had alcohol, but a beer bottle doesn't carry a warning, let alone, but a non-alcoholic beer, because it has cannabis, is covered with warnings. How unusual. This is how they treat cannabis. And they do so because they can, somehow. The prohibition of cannabis for all those years has given them somehow permission to treat this as they have always treated it. Like it's dangerous. So, that's fucked. Don't see too much legalization there. And they do it everywhere. Boasting about the tax that they raise. That's just on cannabis consumers, this tax. It's not John Doe going into the store and say, hey, I'd like to pay the tax. The cannabis tax that's out there. It's only people who buy weed, buy cannabis that pay the tax. What the fuck did we do? Why are you making us pay a tax? So, don't get me started. By flipping a switch. Flip the switch. Yeah, it's getting colder here in Vancouver now. More autumn-like than before. But still palatable. And no rain, no snow, like in most of the rest of the country already. So, yeah. Glad you could join us today. Let's see that chat. Can we see that? I don't know. Somebody said it's a sin tax they're charging us, but yeah, it couldn't be. Because there ain't no sin. So, now we should fight that every step of the way and ask for reasons why they think that they should charge us this. We didn't get to say anything about that. Do you think a tax should be charged on cannabis? I don't remember that in the questionnaire. Do you? No, the whole fucking thing's fucked. Look at how much tax they're getting. Oh my God. Out of our pockets. Cannabis consumers' pockets. They don't ask for a tax from fucking Starbucks. Grr. So, I don't know what the fuck to do. The legacy market, they're calling it. I don't know. I don't know why they've decided to change the name, but it was always called the black market. Then it was the green market. Then it was the gray market, and now it's the fucking legacy market. I'm gonna have to say the Hells Angels is part of the legacy market. For providing as much marijuana as they have. And thanks.
For that, 100%, yeah.
So it depends again on how far back you're prepared to go with your legacy bullshit. And who's a legacy grower and who's a... It shouldn't matter, for God's sakes. It's cannabis. That's what everybody who has some sort of vested interest in cannabis, taking advantage of cannabis being treated the way it is, they have a vested interest in that. It should be treated this way. And because ultimately it makes it more expensive. It keeps that level of me having to pay this much for weed, for fuck's sakes. And I would shut up if it hurt me. If it hurt anyone that I've ever known. If I ever saw any harm. I would certainly warn you of that harm. But I've never seen any, and nor have my compadres. Yet, we are to be treated like it has. And pay a premium. That's more the issue. We should pay a premium. Because we said that it was dangerous. Which is the way it is. We said it was dangerous way before. And now, you still want it. You want it. So much, so many, that we will legalize it and take advantage of you. Thanks, Health Canada. So, anyway, that's my point of view. Nice of you all to join in today. Thanks for doing that. Hope you're enjoying all the stuff that you can watch for free here on Pod TV. People dedicated to bringing you info and, I don't know, you know, whatever. How it all works out. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be here, and thanks to Anil for hooking me up and keeping me live. And as always, until next time, I say peace and pot. Whoa, that's such a